So, on today's episode, I really just want to kind of discuss the state of the world, the state of where we're at, and where I believe it is all leading to. So, we're going to just start with some writings of mine some things of mine that I've kind of just been like finicking with, some ideas here that I definitely feel like are going to be coming up in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 months. So, as you all know, we had that government shutdown. Um, the biggest problem for me with the government shutdown was the fact that our representatives, whether that be in the Senate, in Congress, whatever, they really don't stand for anything. And so they stand for nothing and they fall for everything. They have really no true universal meaning to the word community. They don't really operate in a communal sense. And the Creative Collective is all about community because that is at the basis of everything, the foundations of how we survive as a people, especially as an oppressed group of people. We survive with community, we survive with those who are around us and who we exist with. So, coming into this episode, episode 4, I want to just discuss first that government shutdown and pretty much how this was a point of no return. The government has shut down. Stamps are about to stop in November, and we still don't have any clear reasoning as to why the government has shut down truly, except for power. There's plays of power that are being taken, like Donald Trump's end goal with the shutdown had to have been to affect some type of power over the American people. Then you have No Kings happening in California and him saying he's going to shoot missiles into the United States of America towards United States citizens. This is where we begin to really, really see everything that is now happening in our country. This is a dictatorship and we are under authoritarian rule. We are past the point of saying this could be, this should be, this would be. No, it is. We are at a point of not no longer speaking and talking, but actually moving. So my prediction for this next kind of piece and part of our lives is that the United States of America is about to collapse. We are about to go through a drastic change that we are not prepared to undergo. I don't believe in any sense of the world, or in any sense of the word, that people are prepared. I don't believe there's anyone in any corner of the world who are prepared for this. When the country, see, this is what people I feel like are failing to realize. When the country that stands for freedom, when the country that stands for doing what's right. Okay, when the country that stands for freedom and protections for all, when they decide to no longer be that country, they also decide to rip from under us the foundations of democratic freedom. It's not going to just be an American problem, it's going to be a global issue because there will be no one standing in the middle of doing what is right and doing what is wrong. Okay? There will be no more partiality to that because, as we know, most, if not all, governments right now still have those corrupt pieces to them. They still have those, I don't know, like those, I'm not going to say they're fickle, but they're hidden. They're the hidden parts of the government which are corrupt and which are not for the people and which are the darker parts of our society. These darker parts are becoming the more clearer parts of all societies. Corruption is rampant everywhere, and it always has been. But to see it show its face in such an obvious way is how you know that people are no longer really caring about information. They're no longer really caring about having a good government. And so this is why I believe there's going to be a collapse. I don't think that this government shutdown is going to last a couple of weeks or a month. I believe it is going to last for 3 to 5 months, and that at the end of it, the United States of America will be more technocratic, bureaucratic, aristocratic, and based in billionaire money and billionaire boys clubs than it has ever been before. I don't see a trajectory in which the United States comes out of this unscathed within the next year. I think that people are about to start fleeing, and I'm already seeing it, not just on social media, but in real life as well. There's been increased. We are living in a police state. We're living in a heavily surveilled state, and we always have been. But now that heavy surveillance that we think is meant to protect us, and that heavy police presence that we think is meant to protect us, is now being weaponized against the people. I've been seeing a lot of my people, in particular, Black people, who are being gunned down and who are being subject to rash amounts of police violence and police misinformation. And to me, this all stems from the lack of information and the lack of education surrounding your real rights. Okay. And it's not to say, oh, you should have paid attention in school. We all know that school is an indoctrination process, and school is not the process by which you actually learn your rights or how to apply them. A lot of people don't know their rights or how to apply them, especially in a setting when the police is coming after you. People don't know how to properly advocate for themselves because there's just been a lack of education on advocacy in general. People would rather lay down and take the brunt of that police violence. And I sit and I think, to myself about what I would do. But the truth is, placed in those situations, the choice is always an impossible one to make. And this is what makes it so much more difficult for us to come out of this and still be a part of the community that is the United States of America. Whether we like it or whether we would like to admit it or not, the idea of us staying here in the midst of all this is suicide. And not only is it capital suicide, but it is also emotional, spiritual, and literal physical suicide. When you're living in heavily policed areas and heavily surveilled areas, you are target number one, being if you're a Black man or a Black woman. And it is time that we protect ourselves from this. And I don't mean by going up against the system, I mean by abandoning the system. Okay? You don't have to stay here at the end of the day. And I think this is just a very important message is you don't have to stay here. We don't have to stay here. We can leave. You're not obligated to remain in the United States, and it is not as expensive as people might try to make it to leave. But the best time to start making those preparations and making those plans is right now. As we continue on with this government shutdown, the internal collapse of the government, and that meaning the external collapse of the country, they're going to try to keep you here. They're going to try to make you stay here, but you don't have to stay here. Okay? You're not obligated to stay here. I believe that soon enough countries are going to be telling us like you're a refugee and that you're eligible or able to seek asylum from XYZ country because of your refugee status and because of what is happening in America. At this point, we're reaching the point of a humanitarian crisis. This is why I say we reached the point of no return. And the weakness displayed by the Democratic Party since the 70s is what has been dragging us down. I mean, it all started with the Nixon administration, these illegitimate pregnancies, presidencies that aren't really helping us in any way. They're pushing a certain agenda towards a certain group of people where the people that they're actually supposed to like be constituents of, they're not even helping. They're just trying to help the biggest man in the room. The biggest man being the biggest corporation, being the billionaires. And right now in our world, there's so much happening and so much fast progression as we are also rapidly regressing into a past that we never thought would become our future. We never thought that we'd be facing today the issues that we are facing. We never thought that we'd be having to deal with the things that we are having to deal with today. And it's a bit surreal, but we have to keep our wits about us and keep our heads about us through it all because if we don't, then we're definitely sure to phase out. So, just a little bit about the Republicans and the Democrats, okay? As I said before, I don't really believe in parties, but this is not even a party issue anymore. The Republicans and the Democrats are now two sides of the same country. Like I said, civil war begins in policy. We are already seeing a civil war happening right now. I try not to speak too low of the Democratic Party because I feel like there are people in the Democratic Party that are trying to like make their own plays and their own strategies. But the truth is that the Democratic Party has not been reinforced since the 1900s. This overt disbalance or unbalance of power that we have comes from the fact that Democrats and Republicans have been fighting for this power for a very, very long time. And there were presidents who came in on the Democratic side who fought for that balance, as well as there were presidents even on the Republican side who fought for that balance. But Trump doesn't want that balance, right? He wants this to be a very unbalanced government in which swings in his favor. Republicans are taking orders from him. Republicans are taking orders from Donald Trump. They're not really a party. They are groupies. They are minions. They are watchdogs. They're not here to stand for their constituents or stand for the United States of America. They are here to stand for Donald Trump. So while we officially live in something that is the complete opposite of a democracy, a dictatorship, while we officially are moving towards technocracy, we have to look around and place the blame somewhere because we have to realize that the minute we place that blame is the minute we're able to get down to a solution and building better society. I don't think that there's anywhere that we can like go and the whole world is just going to be different. Of course not. Every place has its issues, its problems, and its corruption. But we have to ask ourselves why. I think the leaders of the past were too binary when it came to figuring out what they are, what they wanted to be, what they wanted the future to be. Now I see that we don't really have any leaders. And though it's not as binary, it is still not as future forward. People are kind of still existing in the world where we're able to walk away from this unscathed and walk away from this with a perspective of we're never going to allow that to happen again. Our country will rise again. But that's just not true. I think that all that comes up comes down. And the United States has had a very great run. But unfortunately and fortunately, the experiment is over. And I don't think we should shed any tears. But I think that we need to continue to move forward. The very first thing that I would like to discuss as we embark on this new journey of just pretty much newness. We don't know what this is about to look like. I want to address again being a leader in your own right. How important it is to be able to lead yourself while also having a common goal within your community. Because right now, community and coming in togetherness is going to be the most vital part of everything that we have going on. So I also have a little other tidbits that I want to throw in there just about the world in general. So, I'm a person who does a lot of research and I have a lot of theories, especially about this upcoming future of ours. And my main one is that the earth is returning back to its natural state. And with it, we are also being forced to turn back to our natural state. So, what does this mean? So, it is my belief that the ice age was an unnatural event. And it was something that was in contradiction to what the earth or what the earth seasons or time usually looks like. There's really not many other icier regions around the world unless they are higher up. Right now, we are being forced into an era of primitivity. And right now, there is a lot of change that is about to occur internally and externally for the earth and for us as the people who inhabit it. So, what is this looking like? So, right now, this looks like it getting hotter. It looks like what we are currently seeing right now with the seasons. It's why our season of hot or our season of heat is getting longer because we're not going to have those winters that we would usually have. I'm not totally sure what that's going to look like. But overall, I do believe that most of the world is supposed to look like the Amazon rainforest. And rainforests in general regions where it is very hot, sweltering, but also it rains a lot. I don't think that this is something that we are not prepared for. I think that is something that is going to shed a lot of truth onto the origin of humanity, race, where we came from. And then with the oncoming Three Eye Atlas, I think that that is another layer of truth for us. I think that right now we are going through and finding a lot of truths about the world. Um, the world, our world, where we come from, what we're doing here, our own origins and our own abilities and powers, truly. I think that a lot of humanity and the truth of humanity has been stifled by capitalism, by so called civilization, by religion, and by organized groupthink. And right now, it is time for us to break out of that and become more individualistic and really walk in our own footsteps. That being said, everyone has their own path to walk. Everyone has their own mission upon this earth. And when it comes to how will this affect you, it's really something that you're going to have to figure out for yourself. Okay? Because right now nobody can really tell you what to do. Nobody can really tell you where to go because a lot of people still don't know the answers themselves. I don't think anybody really ever expected to have to know the answer to this. Like, nobody expects to have to evacuate the United States. Refugees come here. Nobody ever expects to have to leave their country because it's in an economic downturn. A lot of people say that this has been happening since 2008, and I'm a strong agreeer of that. I believe that, but I think it's even earlier than 2008. Perhaps the 70s, perhaps the 80s. I think that these collapses that we're seeing happening right now are the final ending of things just kind of falling down and falling apart. But these things have been falling down and falling apart in very, very slow motion. And that was very purposeful, so that the people who wanted this power, so that the people who wanted to keep their facades and the industries and the topics that these people wanted to keep up, they're able to keep those up without people ever really realizing anything else. Okay? Knowing that everything is going to change is, it's a great thing to know, but you also need to start walking and talking like things are going to change. I think that the main thing here that is really going to change is convenience. And you're going to start to really realize the reward of working and hard work. I don't see a lot of people being able to live the life of luxuries that they once lived. Um, and that was all thanks to the 50s, right? The 50s came and gave us this life of convenience, this life of capital, this life of suburbia. That life is no longer about to exist anymore. And so let's talk about the scam of discipline and its contrast to the flow state. So the scam of discipline and the scam of capitalism in general is that you have to work even though your body says not to. You have to move even though your mind says stop. You have to do things that are opposing to how you truly feel and how you truly want to move in life and how you would like to navigate, because something else dictates you. And that's something that dictates you is time. That's something that dictates you is goals, right? That's something that dictates you is society and societal pressures to be whoever or whomever you're trying to become. We're not going to have that anymore. I believe that a lot of people are going to have a lot more time on their hands. So, when it comes to the change that we're about to ensue and moving away from a capitalistic society, the number one thing that you need to know is that moving away from capitalism does not mean moving away from innovation or community in any way. It means moving toward it. The idea that capitalism, aka competition, breeds innovation comes from the idea that you won't want to be better than the next person, or you won't want to be better yourself if you don't have someone that you're competing with. Okay? You don't want to be better if you don't have something that you're still in the lane, like in a lane existing upon. That you only want to get better when there's competition, right? But when capitalism breeds its innovation, this innovation is also often like it's unused. This innovation is often unnecessary because we don't need innovation to truly breed capital in any way, right? We don't need competition to be innovative at all, because this is when the flow state comes in. Things should flow naturally. Right now, we have an overly crazy amount of innovation. So much so that it is often rendered useless. Okay. You have so many different tiers of innovation, but people only really care about the most flashy forms of innovation. So, not only this, like I said, a lot of it goes unused. These are resources that we're just using up for the purpose of using them up. Innovation, the most important thing about innovation is that people who are forward thinking and people who are existing in alignment with themselves and existing in alignment with the world, they're innovating every day. Because people who are actually doing, I don't want to say what they're supposed to do, but I'll just say more so doing what they feel to do, these type of people change every day. Okay, first of all, that's innovation. We also have to get out of the mindset that you have to compete. Okay, you don't have to compete for anything. Everybody in the world is in their own lane. Everybody in their world is in their own world, aka your mind. Okay, you are the only person who sees life the way that you see it. You're the only person who has your own eyes. You know what I'm saying? Your soul is your soul and no one else's. So the idea that you have to compete with someone, I believe that idea is about to die, because you don't have to compete with others in any way, shape, or form to be great, to be innovative. You don't have to look at the next person and say, oh, they're doing this. Let me do. No, no, no. Because in that case, it's not really innovation. You're just creating so that you can trump the next person and be better than them. But there is no true innovation. Capitalism kills innovation because competition kills innovation. When you are constantly trying to be competitive and get things out and get things out and get things out and beat the trends and all this other shit, you're killing your own creativity. You're stifling yourself. And that's what's the most important about coming into this next wave of individualism and individuality, is that we don't have to compete with one another for anything. We don't have to do that. We can just create. And when people have more time to create, we have less time to compete, because we're all so focused on our own creations and our own innovations. And we are all collectively but individually bringing something to the world. Capitalism teaches us that you have to step on someone else to get ahead, but you don't have to do that. And this is not just speaking from a socialist or communist perspective, because I'm neither of those, right? I'm an anarchist. I believe in, I believe that eco-socialism is probably going to be the next step up from capitalism, but I'm not an eco-socialist either. Like I said, I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in government. I don't believe in order. I don't believe in rules. I don't believe in regulation. I believe in sovereignty, and I believe that the individual should get to dictate how their life is lived. I think that the forms of democracy that we have today are not real and true democracy. Democratic systems are needing to be broken down and reformed. And when this reformation happens, things are just going to have to look different. So many people are going through awakenings and they're realizing the truth of this world. And not just awakenings in the spiritual sense, but awakenings in the material sense as well. Awakenings to the idea, and awakening to the knowledge that this world was not built for them to survive, that they don't do the rat race, that they don't want to work, that they don't want to work to live, that they're not built to be behind a fucking office desk all day. These jobs and these things that these people have created in our society are directly harmful to our natural way of living and our natural way of being. People don't no longer, they don't no longer go with the flow of their own mind and life, and instead they are creating a life surrounding what others are saying that should be true, and that's just not it. I think the biggest shift that is going to happen to people is just going to be acceptance. um Accepting things for what they are and what they are not, accepting what things are for them naturally and accepting what things are not for them. I feel like over this next period, a lot of people are going to begin to go back to their ancestral homes and ancestral roots. America is a place that has made this farce of diversity. It laughs in diversity's face. It says, you all come here, but you come here and you be like me. You don't get to be like you because we're going to condemn you for that. So you be like me and I be like you, but you don't be like you. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take who you are, commodify it, co-opt it, and create something, an entirely new identity from it that you do not get to benefit from, but I will get to benefit from it. And that's not right. And I never really imagined I really thought that we should have this very melting pot vibe. Diversity is good, but what we have to remember is that there's a sacredness in existing individually within your own community. There's a sacredness in existing with people who share your likeness, your ideals. Because if we had more of that, we would have more unity as a country. But we don't really have that because our values are not all based in the same things because people are just so different on a community level. Even state to state in the United States, people are just so incredibly different. It's impossible to pin down the true needs and wants of a community just by viewing it. You have to have more. You have to have more knowledge and more of an idea of to really grasp the true nature of a community. There's just so much more that you have to do, is so much more work that you have to have. And that is why so many communities have these community leaders down to very small parts of things. There's leaders on every level. And not to say that this isn't something like that should be happening, but it's just something that isn't totally necessary because there should always be a consensus of the people that is rooted in their values, their expectations, and their society. But because we all come from different social backgrounds, because socially a lot of minorities and oppressed people were excluded from society, excluded from these values and these religions, and these ideas and conversations, now we just have so much opposition that it doesn't make sense. That's why a lot of people can't really come together and unionize and mobilize because America has so many labels and categories that you can place yourself into. It's almost impossible to really find community amongst a large group of people, a large number. And I'm talking like a million people, right? There's about 360 something, maybe 400 something million people in the United States of America. And there's a greater number elsewhere, yet they can get on a consensus. Places, especially in East Asia, they're able to come to a consensus because they are all rooted in the same ethical, economical, and social principles. These principles are instilled in them since childhood, and they have been instilled in them since childhood because they are instilled in them through family, right? Through community, through things like dynasties, through things like age old principles, okay? And these principles that are instilled in them, though they may interpret them differently or though they may see things differently, they are all still saying, this is a principle I abide by. Americans don't do that. It's because they're extremely, first of all, they're extremely selfish. Americans don't understand the aspects of community because you only understand capitalism and you only understand I, me, instead of we. You only understand that you need to do what's best for you, but you're not really too much caring about the next person. America is not the land of the nice. It's not the land of the sweet. This is the land of the free. And it is a it is no man's land. I mean, you do whatever you want in America and nobody's going to punish you for it except if you're black or a minority or a woman or anything that isn't a white man with blue hair, blonde eyes and a freckled face. And that's really just the truth of everything. And so coming back to the flow state and coming back to existing and one with nature is so important because even our time and our calendars are off. We have 12-month calendars, but they're 13 months. The moon has its cycle, but we have our cycles, and our cycles are not coinciding with the moon. We have fallen out of linearness with nature. We are no longer aligned with nature, and that is what we should be the most aligned with. A lot of people look at it as, oh, that's kind of crazy, but it's kind of crazy, don't you think, to be in alignment with bricks and buildings and money and not in alignment with nature, with the very reason you are on this earth, because there is an earth. The very reason that you are alive is because our earth is able to host us. There's a lack of appreciation, a lack of gratefulness, a lack of big picture thinking and big picture scheming as well. And we have to realize and release the idea that we have to work within the system or we got to work around the system to create a new system when we could just leave the system. The system exists in spite of you and it will continue to exist when you are gone because billionaires and especially Donald Trump's Billionaires Boys Club, they only care about the money. And that is what they are showing right now in everything that they're doing. A capitalistic society operates for capital. It operates for money. It doesn't care about anything else. It does not care about anything else other than the money. Capitalism doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your mom. It doesn't care about you being sick. It doesn't care about you dying. Capitalism is only for the purpose of garnering, keeping, and making capital. And living under society like that, where you're putting everything but yourself first for a system that will never put you first, is wrecked. It's wretched and it's wicked. Then on top of that, you have the mixed economy talking about, oh, but we're socialists. Oh no, but we're also capitalists. But you can't be both. The truth is, we're just a capitalist society that says, I'll give you some free stuff, but not a lot. Because at the end of the day, those things are still paid by taxes. So those things aren't really free. Nothing in this world is free. And that's why we're not living in a socialist or communist society. And people want to make you think that communism is bad. But babe, we're not in the 80s and the 90s anymore. The Red Scare is gone. There's nothing wrong with communism. Communism means no iPhone, no dumbass. Communism means you don't get to be a dumbass anymore. Communism means that you actually have to pull your work and everybody has to work the same. Okay? Living under a communist nation or under a communist rule is pretty much honestly, I feel like when you're under a communist rule, that in of itself is kind of contradictory to communism because I feel like we should all be living together, even together. Even the people on the highest levels should still exist within those communities and those societies with the people who are considered on the lowest levels. And I think that the number one thing as well is to get rid of a hierarchy that is defined by position. Because the a homeless man might be so much smarter than the CEO, but you don't know that because you're judging them by their position, by their station. I don't really believe in caste systems or hierarchical societies, but I think that if we were to have a hierarchy, we were to have a caste system, that system should be based truly on your character and who you are, and not based on no test, and not based on how far you can get in life. Because plenty of people get far in life, but that doesn't mean that they're doing it right. It doesn't mean that they are loyal. It doesn't mean that they are empathetic. It doesn't mean they are ethical or moral. These people get far in life because they get far in life, but they're stepping on necks to do it. And the people who refuse to do that are often the people who stay small and don't get as big because they're not willing to step on as many necks. They're not willing to take out as many people. And that isn't something that anyone should be willing to do, honestly. And I feel like we have to open ourselves up to the idea and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, a lot of these people that we congratulate around the world for being so successful are actually some of the biggest assholes out here and that we shouldn't celebrate their success. I think anyone who becomes like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and they get billions and billions and Elon Musk, billions, none of these people are good people, like at their heart, at their core. And you can define what a good person is yourself, but to me, none of these people have the capacity to actually be human or humanized because money takes them so far away from the world. Okay, we are so far away from humanity and humanness at a certain point. It's like people become inhuman. They become detached from the reality of the world and they start looking at it as the little guys down there with their problems and us big guys up here with our luxuries. But there is no separation there because you are still a part of the people. It doesn't matter how much you have or how much you don't have. I don't believe that anyone should be allowed to exist outside of the problems that we have today, the problems of the people, because at the end of the day, we're all still people. We're all still a part of this country, this nation, and this society wherein we have to survive and learn what that means for us. Um, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about this topic, but capitalism is coming to an end. And I think that I really want to be more future forward instead of kind of dilly dallying talking about what's happening right now or what happened in the past. I really want to talk more about where the future is at and where that's heading. Um, I think that Donald Trump's responsibility of Palestine, what happened in Gaza, was absolutely a farce. And I think he's the biggest bigot to ever walk this fucking earth because it's all a game, right? They waited until the absolute last minute to cause us to call a ceasefire so that they could go to a point of no return. Now that they're at that point of no return, they're going to go and move forward with their initial plans anyway. So it was never really anything that that he did right for the Palestinian people. He's not a hero. Um, Giving Charlie Kirk like he gave him some award. To give this man an award is absolutely insanity. Because we all know what he stood for. They are memorializing him in the hopes of memorializing the hate that Donald Trump wants to bring back and that he already has brought back. That hate is about to get 10 times worse. We got ICE everywhere. Our streets are heavily surveilled and police, as I said before, but ICE coming out, snatching people up, beating people up, police officers just arresting people for no reason, not even reading people their Miranda rights or giving them a clear reason as to why they're getting arrested. All of these things happening simultaneously in this country shows us that we are on a trend downward. Okay, this is not going to stop anytime soon. And for anyone who does think it's going to stop, I hate to say this, but you're ignorant because ignorance is bliss. What can I say? But at the end of the day, you have to stay aware. And like I said, it's time to think future forward. We can no longer stay in the situations that we are in, and we can no longer continue to think and say, hey, like, this is going to change tomorrow or change is going to come. But you have to be the change. You have to make that change. And the first change to make is by standing up and saying, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to leave. Like, I'm not going to do this because you don't have to fight. And I think that people get so caught up in fighting, get so caught up and fighting the regime and fighting to make things right that they don't realize when it's time to lay down the sword and walk away. And at this point, we have reached again a point of no return. We're not able to come back from this. I do believe that our government is about to fall and we're about to really see the true nature and face of our government, whether that is something that's coming from behind them or in front of us, right? What we've already seen. Are these people about to get even worse, or are we about to see some new actors take the stage? That's what I'm on. You know what I'm saying? I think that the earth is about to be very different and our way of living in the world is about to be very different in the next 6 to 8 months. And this change is coming very, very quickly as we can already see it happening and progressing in our day to day lives. This is not a drill. Everything is changing and there's no way to stop it. The best thing you can do is change yourself and then continue to move forward with the knowledge that a better day is going to come because you're going to make a better day come. And we're going to do that by organizing, okay? I think that's always going to be very much the first thing. Um, what I'm thinking of doing here at the Creative Collective, which is what I actually just thought about. I had been thinking about something like this for a while, though, is creating a community outside of the United States of America, buying a communal plot of land, getting organized with some people. Hey, like, let's buy some land, let's build some houses, let's create this space for us here. Um, I think that's going to be very efficient. I think this is what people should do. Get together, organize with groups of people, groups of like-minded individuals, your community. Um, get together. Y'all make it work. You know, if I was y'all, I would go off grid. That's really my plan is to do off grid living, solar panels, farm life, building my own homes and stuff from out of containers and wood and, my own merit. Excuse me. I think the best thing to do is to do it together and with others, especially because a lot of us aren't financially in the place to go, or even physically in the place to go build a house and buy some land in a whole new country. That's a lot to take on. But I think that together, we can do it. Together, we can do just about anything. And all there takes is proper organization for these things, and we're able to put our best foot forward to make them happen, to make them possible. This is just the message for today, y'all. I wasn't really planning on talking too much about this, but this is just where it led me. But it's time, it really is time for us to rise up and want something better for ourselves. And I'm not saying like you have to organize with like a community of like 10,000 people. Like, no, it can literally just be you and 10 to 20 other people. It can be you and your family and y'all kids, and y'all go and do what y'all do. But the best thing to do right now is to be leaving in groups and packs. I wouldn't recommend going anywhere by yourself for real, because we still are on shaky ground globally. So you just want to make sure that you have some security and some resources. If you are going somewhere by yourself, make sure that you have the proper support and you have an exit strategy out of that location as well, because the world is getting more and more serious. And I think that this is it's a reality that is true for so many, but it's never been true for Americans. So it kind of sounds kind of tone deaf or whatever, saying like, this is the world. It's kind of crazy when this has been the world for so many people, and so many people have had to make these exact plans and these exact moments and exact thoughts of where am I going to go, what am I going to do, But it's just, again, it's different when it hits you and you no longer have that cognitive dissonance of damn, that's crazy. Because it's not like, damn, that's crazy. It's like, fuck, I gotta get out of here now. So, y'all put your heads together, come up with something. I'm pretty sure that y'all got some smart people around y'all. And if y'all don't, y'all got me. I'm just playing. But for real though, y'all got Google. Y'all got YouTube. Y'all get out there, find some information, stay informed, stay on top of it, because we are ushering into an era of danger and of primitivity, but of mostly danger if we are staying in the United States. But if we are able to leave the United States, I feel it will be better, because this land, in my opinion, is quite cursed. Okay, when we think about it, it's quite cursed here in the United States of America because of all of the terrible deeds that have been done and all the blood that has been shed. And the idea of it crumbling before any other regime is something that really does warm my young activist heart when I was first learning about all of the treacherous ways and all the treacherous nature of the United States. So I'm happy that this is happening. I feel like it's a long time coming, and the sky is falling, but it's not really. Because the sky is going to come up another day and the sun is still going to shine on us in the same way that it has for the last 400 to 600 years. Black people, Black Americans, we have been great. We will stay great. Um, and we will continue to rebuild anywhere at any time. There's nothing that's going to stop us. We are on an upward trend always. So it's just keep that in your mind. Be optimistic about your life and your future, and know that the end is near for them, but the end is not near for you. So yes, y'all, that's all I have to say for today's podcast. Let me know what you think in the comments down below.